My sister stole my adoption papers, then claimed I was born for a better life without me, and if that reads like the opening line of a courtroom drama, I promise it was my actual Thursday. And I'm Rowan, 35, a city archives technician who spends my days unboxing other people's history with white cotton gloves and my nights trying to figure out the parts of my own that came without instructions. I found out I was adopted when I was 7, which is to say my parents told me in a kitchen with fluorescent lighting and overcooked pasta, and my sister Tessa, age 5, clapped like someone had announced cake. "Does that mean you're special?" she asked, eyes wide. My mother said, "It means we chose her," and I learned early that words can be a quilt and a net at the same time. I grew up loved. I also grew up with a question living under my bed like a polite monster who knocked before speaking. The question wasn't why didn't they want me, it was where did I come from? In high school I wrote college essays about the poetry of belonging and pretended that writing a metaphor is the same as having an answer. In my 20s I got the job at the archives and fell in love with evidence, the way paper behaves like a memory that can't lie for long. I still didn't open my own box. Tessa opened everything. Drawer snoop, present shaker, secret finder. She used her curiosity like a passport and somehow never paid customs. When we were kids, she'd slide open my jewelry box and ask about each trinket as if she'd hosted the moment I bought it. When we were adults, she kept the habit, upgraded, my email left open at Thanksgiving. She'd clean up my tabs. My bag on the whole chair? She'd move it somewhere safer. She called it helpful. I called it weather. Last winter, after years of therapy and should-I-shouldn't-I conversations with my ceiling at 3 a.m., I petitioned the court to unseal my adoption file. It wasn't impulsive, it was scheduled, color-coded, budgeted. My parents supported me in the way of people who know love and fear can coexist without canceling each other out. "We're here," my dad said, and meant it like a porch light. A judge signed off on partial disclosure, non-identifying information, medical history, a map with some of the street names blurred. The envelope arrived at my apartment on a Wednesday in the kind of legal manila that makes your hands sweat. I didn't open it. Not yet. I put it on my desk and let it exist like a new planet in my solar system. I planned a ritual, Friday night tea, a friend on call, soft lamp, the good pen for notes. I told exactly 2 people, my therapist and Tessa. I told my sister because she would find out anyway and because I wanted to make her part of the circle before she drew one around me. She hugged me and said, "Finally," and her eyes did that glitter thing they do when a story is about to happen to her. "Don't rush me," I said, laughing. "I'm not a headline." She promised to be chill. Tessa promises a lot of things with her whole face. On Thursday, I worked late because a donor delivered 27 bankers' boxes of a retired councilman's papers, which turned out to be 80% menus and refrigerator magnets and 20% receipts that made a corruption investigator drool. I got home after 9, kicked off my boots, set my keys in the bowl, and knew in the instant my eyes hit the desk that something was wrong. The envelope was opened. Not obviously, no ripped edge, but the flap lay down like a mouth after a secret. Beside it sat a note in Tessa's handwriting, "You're going to be so relieved. Call me. Love you." I picked up the envelope with fingers that felt like mismatched socks. Inside, the file, flipped, pages separated, my name in the corner, Rowan adopted name, my original birth date viewable through the corner. There's a physical feeling to privacy being handled without you, like your bones want to leave. I called her. "Ro," she answered, cheerful, then cautious when I didn't greet her back. "Did you see? I made tea and opened it because I knew you'd be nervous and I thought better to rip the bandage, you know? You came to my apartment and opened my sealed adoption file," I said. My voice had the calm of someone holding a rock over their toe and refusing to drop it. "You said Friday," she countered, "but you also said you were scared and I thought if I read it first I could filter." "You don't get to be my filter," I said, my mouth filling with cotton. "How did you even get in here?" "You gave me the extra key when your sink was leaking," she said, as if leaks are indefinite permission. "I put it back under the turtle planters." She paused. "I didn't read everything. Just enough to know. You're going to be okay." "What did you read?" A stupid question because her answer was everything even if she said barely anything. She started to explain, non-identifying this health history that I hung up. Not dramatic. Just a door closing because oxygen had somewhere else to be. I sat down and opened the file myself because now the choice was not whether but how. My original birth time, 3:17 a.m., which made me laugh for a second because I have always woken at 3 a.m. without an alarm, like some part of me refuses to be late for my own life. A note from the social worker describing my birth mother as shy, artistic, from a family with strong church ties, my birth father as older, employed in seasonal work, a description of my hair, dark, full head, the tiny joke about my lungs, strong. There were forms. There was a letter. The letter, oh God, the letter, written in neat cramped lines, my birth mother's hand, explaining that she loved me, that she could not keep me then, that she hoped I would be held by people who could give me stability. I am not leaving you. I am placing you where you can breathe. I cried the kind of cry that cleans corners. I texted my therapist, opened, and she sent back a heart and a reminder to drink water, which is the world's most annoying and effective triage. Then my phone buzzed again, Tessa. I didn't answer. It buzzed again, our mother. I answered. Sweetheart, she said, unsteady. Did Tessa call you? I said yes. She inhaled. She has ideas. I closed my eyes and saw my sister's brain print a banner. Before I could ask what that meant, a group text pinged, my aunt, my cousins, a childhood neighbor who still forwards chain emails like it's 2006. In it, a photo of me at age 8 with a missing tooth grin and a caption from Tessa. Rowan's origin story is beautiful and complicated, and I'm so proud of her birth mom for choosing a better life for her. We should all be grateful. A glitter emoji. A prayer hands. A hashtag, #born4better. I don't remember walking to Tessa's apartment. I remember arriving like a weather event. She opened the door barefoot, wearing my college sweatshirt she'd borrowed forever, eyes lit with the kind of self-satisfaction that only happens when someone thinks they just performed humanitarian aid on your soul. What did you do? I said, a statement. I told the truth, she said, beaming. I told people how brave your birth mother was, how you were meant for a better life. Everyone's replying with hearts. Aunt Marina is crying. This is healing. You took my adoption papers, I said, and then you told my story without me. My voice stayed low, which frightened both of us more than shouting. She flapped a hand. It's your truth, Ro. I'm lifting it up. And it's not like I named names. I didn't say her name or his. I didn't even say the agency. I kept it tasteful. You kept it digestible, I said. I could feel that archivist part of me standing behind my ribs with a clipboard. Do you know what #born4better implies? That my life before was worse. That I'm lucky I was removed. That adoption is a rescue, not a grief. You don't get to reduce me to your slogan. Don't be mad at me for celebrating you, she snapped, cheeks flushing. I'm making everyone understand. You always think people will hurt you with this. I'm showing them it's beautiful. You think I'm afraid of ugly, I said. I work in rooms full of ugly. I'm afraid of simple. I took a breath that tasted like the paper dust of court files. Also, did you contact anyone? She blinked, expression shifting. Contact who? My birth family, I said. Did you reach out? I looked, she said, guilty bleeding through. I Googled the town, the church. I found a Facebook page. I might have sent a message to someone who looked like her. Just to thank her. On your behalf. If a soul can projectile vomit, mine did. You what? To thank her, she repeated, almost pleading. To tell her I'm grateful she gave you up. Placed, I said automatically, because language is a thing I cling to when the floor sways. Placed you. And to say you turned out amazing. I thought maybe she needed to hear that. You might never reach out. I didn't want her to die not knowing. You don't get to decide my timeline, I said, and I was shaking, not from rage but from something older and colder, the bone-deep knowing that my boundaries had been relocated without a permit. You broke into my story like a daytime soap with a sentimental soundtrack and you called it love. You stole my papers. You used my name as content. You messaged a stranger with my blood. You told everyone I was born for better. You made a hero out of a stranger and a patient out of me. I made you loved, she said, small now. Isn't that what you want? I am loved, I said. You're making me watched. We fought then, the kind of fight sisters have only when they know the inventory of each other's soft spots. She accused me of hoarding pain. I accused her of hoarding attention. She said my hesitance hurt our mother. I said her speed hurt me. Finally I left because I was going to say something sharp and I didn't want to live in a world where my best friend from before memory became a person I had to forgive for bleeding me dry with good intentions. Back home, my phone had messages stacked like trays. My aunt's so brave, my cousin's so inspiring, a high school friend's DM. What agency? We're thinking of adopting, can we talk? My birth mother's name, if it was her name, sat in my search history like a loaded word. A new message request on Instagram from an account with 3 photos and nothing else. Are you Rowan? I closed the app. I turned off my phone. I sat on the floor and practiced what I teach new interns when they first handle brittle paper. The first rule is don't move fast. The second rule is remember whose it is. I didn't sleep. I wrote on paper in the dark with the good pen the things I needed to say out loud to somebody who wasn't going to clap. Dear Tessa, I wrote, you cannot fix a story by telling it loudly. Dear Mom and Dad, I wrote, thank you for staying soft while I find edges. Dear woman whose letter was careful with me, I wrote, I will meet you maybe when I am not holding back a flood with 2 hands. Dear Rowan, I wrote, you are not a slogan. You do not owe anyone a clean arc. In the morning, my mother showed up with coffee and caution. She sat on my couch like it had teeth. I told her to take the post down, she said, not pretending she didn't know. She did. She also cried until she looked like a dish rag. I'm not trying to make her a villain, I said. I'm trying to teach her that some doors aren't hers. She thinks doors are suggestions, my mother said, grimly affectionate. When you were babies, I'd find her in the cupboard because it closed. She is still looking for the place where she belongs. She looked at me, eyes watery with the ache of loving 2 daughters differently and equally. You have always made a room for your feelings and stood inside it like a good host. She scatters hers on the lawn and hopes the neighbors make a parade. I should have taught her better. I am sorry. It's not yours to be sorry for, I said, which was true and also a kindness I hoped she let sit. I need help, I added, because my mother loves being useful and because I did. I need you and Dad to talk to family. Tell them to stop asking me for the link. Tell them this isn't a documentary they get to subscribe to. Tell them if they love me, send soup emojis and then zip it. She smiled through the guilt. Soup emojis, she said. Done. I called a friend who is a family law attorney and asked about lines. You don't have to police the internet, she said. You set your boundary with your sister. You document. You write the message you want circulating and post it yourself once on your terms. Then you log off and go to a museum. So I wrote. Not a manifesto, not a clapback, a paragraph that used only the words I was willing to carry. Some of you saw my sister's post yesterday. I'm adopted. It's complicated and beautiful and mine. Please don't contact anyone on my behalf. Please don't tell me I should be grateful. Please don't ask for details you wouldn't ask a stranger. If and when I share more, it will be because I want to, not because anyone made it content. Love you all. Back soon with pictures of my dog. I posted it. I put my phone in a drawer. I went to the museum and looked at a painting of a woman holding a letter and tried very hard not to make it about me. When I got home, there were messages that made me smile and some that made me annoyed and exactly 2 that made me cry. One from my father, a period again, his entire language for I'm here, and one from a classmate I barely knew who wrote, thank you for saying it's yours. I'm adopted too. I forget I'm allowed to say that. I pinned that one in my mind. 3 days later, an email came to the address I listed on my court petition for contact if any. The subject line made my heart sit down. A hello you don't have to answer. The body of the email was careful. My name is L. I believe I'm the person who wrote the letter in your file. Someone reached out to me this week. I'm not writing because of her. I'm writing because 35 years ago I placed a baby at 3:17 a.m. and I have thought of her every morning since. I won't tell anyone you wrote me. I won't ask for more than you want to give. I will say only this: you were not born for a better life without you. You were born for a life with you in it. If we never speak again, I am grateful to have used your name this once in my kitchen on a Tuesday with the same shaking hands. There was a phone number. There was a PS about her garden and a neighbor's cat who behaves like a communist. I printed it out and held the paper like it could tether me. I didn't respond that day. Or the next. I went to work and catalogued a set of photographs from 1951, people at a summer picnic in bad hats, and thought about how every face in a box belonged to someone who'd told a version of their life and had that version told again by someone else. I thought about Tessa's hunger to narrate and how dangerous hunger is when it wears entitlement's perfume. I thought about my own temptation to overcontrol, to edit feeling into palatable footnotes. I stuffed envelopes of negatives into acid-free sleeves and labeled them with a neat hand. Names, dates, the word approximate. Most lives are. Tessa called and called. I ignored and ignored. Finally I texted, Sunday 2 p.m. my place. Come ready to listen. She responded with 17 heart emojis and I'll bring baked brie, which is her way of saying I surrender, and cheese. She did listen. For once. I told her what it felt like to see my childhood face under her caption. I told her what born for better sounded like from inside my bones. I told her what consent means when the subject is a person and not a package. I told her I love that she loves me loudly and I need her to love me quietly too. I told her that if she messages anyone again about my family, I will ask our parents to hold her spare keys forever because trust is a front door you can lose access to. She cried like she does, big and honest. She said, I wanted to be part of your beginning, which broke my annoyance into a puzzle I could solve. You are, I said. You're my middle. That is not less. We set up a system that sounds silly until you need it. If either of us wants to share something about the other, we put 3 checkboxes in a text. Do you want me to share this? Yes, no. Should I wait a day? Yes, no. Can I ask you questions instead of performing empathy? Yes, no. It worked because it was a ritual and we're both children of ritual. Friday pizza, Sunday laundry, love as verbs with calendars. I wrote back to Elle 2 weeks later. I told her I read her letter and it made me feel like a lighthouse had a hand. I told her I might like to talk someday when my sister learned how to sit on her hands and when I could do it without performing my face for 2 families at once. She wrote back the kind of email that isn't meant to be reread in a movie montage. It was sentences like, the roses are failing but the bee balm is thriving, and I hope you love mushrooms, and I never wanted you to be a secret. We took it slow, postcards first, then a phone call where she laughed like water over rocks, then a plan to meet in a park that belonged to no one. Tessa didn't come. She didn't ask to. She texted me a photo of that baked brie and the single word proud, and I realized growth is also a ritual. When I met Elle, she wore a raincoat even though the sky couldn't decide. She brought me a jar of her jam and a photo of a dog who died 10 years ago. We sat on a bench and talked about nothing important first, the weather, the geese, the way teenagers travel in flocks like urban birds. Then she told me how she picked my name for a day in the hospital, the name she whispered to me, Mina, before the social worker wrote Rowan on official paper that would bring me home to the people who are also my home. I told her about the archives and about how paper foxes me into feeling safe. She told me about the day she put my letter in the file and asked the woman with the typewriter if I could have it someday, and the woman said, "We'll see," as if futures are a lottery. We did not hug. We did not sob. We sat like 2 people whose lives had been adjacent in a way that defies maps and let the air decide if it wanted to be heavy. It wasn't. It felt like a book open to a page you remember reading in another house. After, I walked home through a city that insists on renewing itself, a backhoe scooping yesterday and paving tomorrow, and I thought about the phrase Tessa tried to crown me with, born for a better life. I whispered it and then edited it out loud like an archivist with a pencil. Born for a life where I get to choose the verbs. Born for a life where better is not a verdict but a direction. Born for a life with me in it, as Elle wrote, the only clause that matters. It took months for the family group chat to relearn its manners. People slipped and asked questions with bows on them. I said no details with a smile that didn't shake. Tessa backspaced a lot. She showed up for me in small ways that would never trend. She drove me to my dentist appointment and read out loud from a ridiculous romance novel in the waiting room. She came to the archives during open house and stood beside me while I explained to strangers how to touch old newspapers. She stopped telling my stories to make herself the hero. She started telling her own, about the ways she feels late to everything, about the holes she fills with confetti, about why she loves loud and how she's learning to love deliberate. I'm Rowan, 35. I spend my days labeling other people's yesterday, and I am finally learning to name my own. My parents still send soup emojis. My birth mother sends photos of bee balm and asks about mushrooms. My sister has my spare key again because she earned it back. I have a copy of my adoption file in a fireproof box, and next to it a sheet of paper I wrote and signed. This story belongs to me. Please ask before entering. Underlined twice. Not because I plan to litigate my heart, but because permission is not paperwork, it's love. And when someone says like they do, you were born for a better life, I say, I was born for this one. And I mean the exact apartment I'm sitting in, the mug I'm holding, the stack of postcards from a woman who looks a little like me, the text from my sister that reads, "Proud of you for being boring tonight, want to watch trash TV," and the fact that when I look at my hands, they do not shake anymore when they touch the envelope with my name on it, because that name, as it turns out, is one I keep choosing on purpose.